Good work.
Everyone hear me? Yes. Awesome. It's cool to see so many people in the room. Sometimes I give talks to like 4 people, which is a lot less exciting. So it feels better the more people there are. I love to see so many people. So thank you all for coming. I'm excited to share some stories with you today. Unlike most talks, I'm not really here to tell you what to do. I like to read business books, and I hate those business books that are like, do this, do this, do this. I love the business books that are like, here's the story of what happened when GM was founded. Here's the story of how Ray Kroc built McDonald's. Here's the story of how Alibaba won. And so rather than tell you a lot of sort of like what to do's, I'm going to share lessons, stories really, from the last 20 years of my life as an entrepreneur, which is 4 companies, the biggest being my last company, which was Triggit. We raised $25 million and built it up to about $30 million in revenue before we sold it. So I got a lot of battle scars from being in your shoes, and I want to share some of those stories. We're going to break it out into 3 sort of themes. One is just sort of startup stuff. Then we're going to talk about fundraising. And then at the end, there's just a bunch of just sort of general lessons. So I like to say that I am now a washed-up entrepreneur. After 20 years of being in the storms and getting my ass handed to me, I now am on the beach. I'm an investor full-time. I invest in startups. That's what I do. It's a lot easier on the beach, I have to tell you. Like compared to being in the craziness for the day it is your job, investing is a hell of a lot easier. But I enjoy it because I get to basically work with early stage entrepreneurs all over the world and help them realize their dreams. I get to parachute in, pretending like I'm still an entrepreneur, help out with their problems, but I get to go home and sleep at night compared to most of you who are really, really struggling every day, which is what I did as an entrepreneur. So I think I have the best job in the world and I feel very lucky. That's my email address right there. The first thing I would like to share with you is how to reach out to and build relationships with investors. Now that I'm on the other side of the table, I spent 20 years begging for money, and I was learning as I begged for money how to actually get them to give me money. But now that I give people money for a living, I've learned some new things. And the first thing I'd like to share with you is that as an investor, I give away free money. So everybody wants to be my friend. Makes sense. But I get a lot of pitches. Every day, basically, people pitch me. I get 100 emails, 200 emails a day full of pitches about, hey, here's my company, please give me money. Hey, here's my company, please give me money. Hey, here's my company, please give me money. And as you can imagine, for those of you who get deluged with email, that's really no fun. It's very difficult for me to look at a company and a person that I don't know and make a decision about giving them money based on one email. It's really about building a relationship. And so the first thing I'd like to share with you is the secret to engaging with investors is instead of sending pitches, send updates. And so what that means is like, if you have a company, feel free to send me an email about what you do. Teach me about your space. Teach me about the technology, the competitors. Teach me about the world that you see every day, because you're deep down in the trenches and you're fighting in a world that I don't know as much about as you do. Share. And when you send those emails sharing what you're doing and teaching me new things, suddenly you're giving me, the investor, value, and I like opening those emails. When I see a new email from you, if you're teaching me new things, I get excited. I'm like, oh, cool, I'm going to learn some new stuff about agriculture in India, or I'm going to learn some new stuff about metallurgy, or I'm going to learn some new stuff about how to make airplanes fly in icy weather. Like, that's really cool shit for me because I love to learn. And so by taking the dynamic from I'm going to send Zach an email and pitch him and beg him for money, which doesn't do me much good, to I'm going to send Zach an email, I'm going to teach him new shit, suddenly I appreciate your emails and I'm excited to open them. And in those emails, tell me how it's going. Tell me your metrics. Tell me how the business is tracking. Just tell me your story. Try to keep it short, but feel free to send me those emails. I love to open those emails, and you can build a relationship. We can build a relationship over time, and then eventually, hopefully, we get to know each other well enough that I feel comfortable engaging, investing, and we can basically go on the long-term journey together. So this is a lesson that I've learned now that I'm on the other side of the table and listening to my fellow VCs bitch about all the emails we get, but this is the way I would like to be engaged with, so feel free to email me that. If you email me pitches, I probably won't open them, but you email me updates, I definitely will. The second thing, I love questions because I get up here and give a talk and I never know what the audience is getting out of it. So if you have a question at any point in this pitch, feel free to ask. Go for it.
Yeah, just like to the point, how do you know when
super easy. The first email you send me, the first paragraph of that email, if you teach me something, I'm going to open your second email. If the first email you send me is like, hey, give me money, or hey, here's a pitch, I'm not going to open your second email. I'll just hit spam. Because I get so many emails. Like that first relationship is like the first time we talk. If you add value to me and I add value to you and we like each other in that first moment, then we will build a relationship over time. So first paragraph, first email. Like I have people from all over the world who send me these things, and it's super cool. Like I'm learning really neat stuff. I love it. But the pitches I hate. They suck. Go for it.
What would be the best, I guess, email that you got in your inbox that made you want to open that second or third email?
Yeah. Let's see. I'll give you an example. So this is a great example. This is a great story. Many years ago, I got an email from this guy who I didn't know, and he was like, dude, there's this crazy thing happening called Bitcoin, and like you need to check it out, and here's why. And he explained it in a paragraph, and the Bitcoin was sub $1. And I remember reading that and being like, network effects? Oh my God, currencies? Like, this is a big deal. And I read it, and I was like, wow, he just taught me something. Because nobody knew about it at that point in time. And I was like, whoa, a secret had just been delivered to me. Now, I'm the fucking idiot who's like, oh, here's the 10 reasons why it won't work, fuck it, and then just watched it go from 0 to where it is now. So the only time I've ever been more wrong is when I told Travis, right when he was starting Uber, that the taxi lobby was gonna fuck him and it would never work. So like, totally wrong. But that email, like, I was like, oh my God, that guy now is like, he's fucking rich as hell. And he's like very successful, but he taught me something and we built a relationship on that first email and he cold emailed me. I'm happy to get emails that are cold emailed like that, but I'm not excited to get pitches. So that's why my email address is up there, because I'm happy to share it with you all if you do it like that. And I'm happy to hit spam too if it's spammy. Any more questions about that before we jump to the next thing? Go for it. I can hear you.
In the update email,
yeah.
Do we also attach the pitch or just give you an update?
You can always attach a, yeah, you can always attach a deck. I don't like one-pagers. I like to scan. I scan quickly. I can scan decks quickly. I can't scan one-pagers quickly. Feel free to attach a deck. But if in the email, I don't feel like I'm learning things and you're not teaching me things and I don't get excited about in the first couple paragraphs, I may or may not open the deck. So, and you can feel, I mean, go ahead, like pitch away, but like make sure the first paragraph of the email is valuable to me. Because at the end of the day, I see startups every day, and the vast majority of them I'm not going to invest in, but the ones I really care about are the ones that are teaching me things, because then I might invest in those companies in the future, versus the companies that basically just reach out and they're like, hey, give me money. And I'm like, because this is another thing that's important to remember. Investors, we're human beings, just like all of us in the room, and it's like dating. At the end of the day, there's certain types of people that I want to date, and those are my type of people. And just like it is like certain types of companies that I want to invest in, those are my type of companies. And just like I can't explain to you the long book-length reasons of the type of people that I want to date, it's very difficult for me to sit up here and explain all the different types of companies that I would want to invest in. And so most of the time when I get email pitches from companies that are good companies, usually the reason why I don't invest in them is not because they're bad companies, it's because they're just not my kind of company. I want certain types of things. What I'm really looking for, the types of companies that I want, are companies that are doing weird new stuff. So if you think about Bayesian statistics, in Bayesian statistics, there's basically something called the base set. And the base set is basically all the companies that have come before and that are similar to the company that you're looking at. And you can look at basically the success rate of the base set and then look at the predicted success rate of the company that you're looking at. And then you can come up with a predicted success rate for the new company. It's complicated, but Bayesian statistics is great for understanding probability. I like companies where there's no base set. I like companies where you look at this company and you're like, what's come before that that's like nothing? There's nothing like this company that's come before it. I like companies that do weird stuff. So it's hard for me to explain that. So don't feel bad if I don't like it, but yes, good.
Okay, growing on that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when you're meeting with a VC, they want you to talk about competition.
Sure.
So if there's no direct, there could be an adjacent competition. Like how do you field those questions if you're really interested where there isn't a base set?
Yeah, sure. That's a hard question, right? Like that's the point of why I think my job and your job are both the hardest fucking jobs in the world in our particular problem set. You need to figure out a way to explain what is what is the customer doing now, and how are you replacing what they're doing now? And it may not be another company, but they're doing something to solve their problems. What are they doing? Teach me about that. Teach me about the solution that you're bringing to a problem set. So it may not be like this company is just like me, but this business process that these guys do is just like what I solved for. It's hard. It's the hardest job in the world to explain that shit. Like, I had the hardest time at all my companies. It's like, how do I do that? But that's the point. Like, if your job was easy, everyone would do it, and no one would get rich doing it. So, like, that's why it's hard. And my job is to, like, figure out how to understand that question by looking at it and digging in and, like, thinking with you and being like, okay, let's think about your competition, asking you questions that maybe can help you think about it in different ways. You know, one of the things I do as an investor is that as a 4-time entrepreneur, I've been in the shit for 20 years. I've been in the shit with you guys. And I like to say that basically being an entrepreneur is like being in a dark alley with Mike Tyson. And in one hand, Mike Tyson has an ice cream cone. And the other hand, he has his fist. And you never know which one's going to hit you in the mouth in any given minute. Like, one day you're like, woohoo, we're going to crush the world. And the next day, basically, the whole thing's about to collapse. I literally had a day once where a customer called me up in the morning, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. I get a phone call. It's one of our customers. He's like, hey, Zach, just want to let you know, you guys are crushing it. I love you. Thank you. Keep it up. I was like, oh, it felt so good, right? Like, we were like, I thought we were doomed, and here does this guy call me. Calls me back 15 minutes later. Zach, I'm sorry. I actually made the wrong call. I meant to tell you that you're really fucking up. I thought the next person I called was the person that was doing a good job. Yeah, like, woo! I mean, and he's like, look, I care about you. I want you to stop fucking up because I think you might get it right, but you're fucking up, and here's why. So on one hand, I was like, thankful for that guy. Cool. On one hand, I was thankful for that guy, but on the other hand, I was kind of mad because it felt bad. Anyway, I lost my train of thought, but you guys have the hardest job in the world. I have a lot of respect for that. So this is really the sort of like gushy part of my talk. I think some of you might be parents in this room. I have a 4-year-old daughter. She's amazing. And I got to tell you that, like, I feel there's such a connection between basically a startup and a child, because at the end of the day, your job is the hardest job in the world. You have to basically bring something into the world that is brand new, that's never been there before, and then you have to basically navigate that process of pain, agony, joy, sorrow. And so the one thing I would say to all of you is just remember, like being a parent, all the hard work about what you do is just the most amazing thing in the world, and just enjoy the ride. Because I look back at my years as an entrepreneur, and like I'm a washed-up entrepreneur now, and I look back at the agony where I would sit at my kitchen table and literally cry, and I was like, oh my God, I just want this fucking thing to work. And like, we spent 10 years in my last company. It was like, oh my God, I want this to work. Oh my God, I want this to work. And I look back at those moments, like when I was crying, and I kind of feel nostalgic. I'm like, oh, that was kind of fun. It didn't feel fun at the time, but like, and just like it sometimes doesn't feel fun to be a parent, but like what you do is really special, and enjoy it. It's really fun. And just remember that like the hard part about it is what makes it special. So thank you to all of you who do the work you do. Thank you for going through it. Keep it up. Like, you make the world a better place. Like, I think there's no more powerful force for like changing the world than what you guys do. You know, one of the companies I invested in is a company called Cruise Automation. They do self-driving cars. And the reason I invested is Kyle is an old friend of mine. I've been known with for a long, long time. When he was starting it, he was like, Zach, I think we're going to get this. And I think the 30,000 people who die every year are going to not die because of us. And I remember just like having my heart just break, like being like, done. I'm still investing in this company. Because his passion to solve a problem and to change the world made me believe that like there's hope in the world when people do that. I love that sort of shit. So thank you everyone in the room for what you do. Keep it up. It's an amazing stuff. Let me see how much time I have. I rambled a little bit there. Okay. We'll go a little faster. This slide doesn't really work at this resolution. Okay. So let me talk a little bit about a lesson that I learned at Trigit. So when we started Trigit, we were an ad tech company. I don't know if many of you know about ad tech, but ad tech is a pretty crazy market, super competitive. And like we tried for many, many years to sort of like boil the ocean and to to really try to like go after the big problems. And the big insight that we had, the big sort of breakthrough that we had, was right when Lehman crashed. We had luckily just raised some money, and the stock market was like collapsing, and we looked at basically the world around us and we were like, oh, we're fucked. All right, that's it. And in that moment, we had an ad network. We had about 10,000 publishers, but it was fucked. There was no way that was going to make it through what was obviously going to be a massive recession. We weren't making any money. We weren't going to be able to raise any more money. And we looked at this thing called real-time bidding, which was a new protocol for buying ads. And at that point, basically, it had about 20 million impressions a day transacted through RTB. Global ad volumes are probably in the sort of 500 billion a day at that point. So like that's just like a tiny sliver of nothing. And we were like, okay, we're fucked. Our ad network sucks. The economy just crashed, and we're in trouble. But there's this RTB thing that kind of looks like Bitcoin, and it looked very similar to Bitcoin at the time, which is like very nascent, but it had big network effects. And we were like, okay, let's bet on that. Fuck it. Like if it doesn't work, who cares? Like we're dead anyway. And so we basically jumped into this RTB thing and quickly became basically the global experts on RTB. Because it was so small, who cared about it? Just like when Bitcoin first started, you could be a global expert on Bitcoin because there was like hundreds of people who cared about it. Here's the lesson. All those years of trying to boil the ocean, we never got anywhere. But the moment we became an expert in something, became one of the best football players in the world, we basically suddenly were the winner in our space. So finding a niche where you get to be the expert. Now football is a giant market, and like being an expert here is probably one of the hardest things in the world. But finding a little tiny niche and becoming the expert in that little tiny niche, we went from basically struggling to winning. And I think it's one of the biggest lessons that I would share with any startup that I work with. If you're not the best player in your market, if you're not this guy, but in your market, you need to go find a smaller market until you can be this guy. So intense focus on a market where you can be the winner is probably one of the most important things that you can do. See if the next slide looks better. All right, so this is really what startups look like. I look at startups every day, and y'all play like this. That's great. Enjoy that. Go play in a market where you know that you can suck. On day one, you can be bad at everything you do, but you can still win the game. At the end of the day, you want to play in a market where you can be a bad player, but the other players on the field are also bad players. Like, now, if you happen to be the best player in the world, you can play in a market which has better players, but having seen lots and lots and lots of startups, usually at the end of the day, the startups that succeed are the ones that are 10 times better than their competitors, and the secret to being 10 times better than your competitors is not to be that good, it's to have competitors that are that bad. So go find a market where you can be 10 times better than your competitors. I guarantee you, you will be so much happier than if you basically play in a market where you are playing with people who are really good. Like I said, this talk is not about basically like a theme. It's about stories. And when we went into RTB, basically we suddenly were in a wonderful spot. Another lesson, and I'm sure you guys have heard this over and over again, but one of the lessons that I've learned in Silicon Valley is that everybody here helps each other. And there's a reason for that. And that reason is that you never actually know who's going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or who's going to be the next like blow up the world guy who's standing next to you. So when Travis started Uber, like he was just another guy at a startup party sharing a beer, and we were arguing about whether or not his shit would work. When Airbnb started, like they were at the poker table and we were talking about like, would people ever rent out rooms in their home? And like, probably not. When Dropbox started, Drew and his crew were at the poker table and they were just having a good time. All of those people basically, because they were helped by the people around them, they succeeded, and by succeeding, they gave back to that community. And so I think one of the most important lessons for global startups is the same thing, which is that like, helping the people who are around you and getting help from the people around you is a monstrously powerful network. It's super, super cool. So if there's any lesson that I can give you is if you're this girl, reach up. People will help you. And if you're that guy or gal, reach down. Help those people because you never know. Because in this business, a business can go from 0 to 10,000x overnight. And the more people you help, the better off you'll be. I think, you know, I started doing that early on in my career, and I look back and I think it's probably one of the most important things I ever did. So let's talk about technology a little bit. So I think a lot of startups in this room will talk about how awesome their technology is. Let's go back to, like, at the end of the day, your technology probably sucks. Like, it's nascent. Figure out a way that your technology, even though it probably sucks at the most nascent stage, still works. Like, if you're a kid and you do this, like, it's super cool. You're like, oh my God, I got a tin can and a string, and suddenly I can talk to this person who's feet away from me. It's an amazing thing. Now, like, it's amazing because of the context that it doesn't compete with anything else, and it's super amazing. If you can find a market where your technology actually works, even though it probably sucks, you have a hope of slowly building your way into the process. Too many startups, I think, basically think that the solution is to build amazing technology and then get it into market. My suggestion is build shitty technology that will still get traction in the market, and you'll be in a much happier place. So now we're going to get into the fundraising part of the talk. And we're going to talk about a number of different types of people to raise money from, and I'll keep it relatively quick. The first thing is, if you can't raise money from your friends and their family, nobody else is going to give you money. If your friends and your family don't have any money, get them to give you a little bit of money. Because if I look at a startup and they haven't raised from their friends and their family, like, if their friends and their family don't trust them, how the hell am I supposed to trust them? So you always need to raise from your friends and your family. If you don't, forget about it. But the most important thing to do is make sure you tell those people that you're absolutely guaranteed going to lose their money. And they're never, ever going to see it again. Because in this room, like all of you except for a couple are probably going to fail. And so don't destroy the relationships you have with your friends and your family simply because you need the money. Because your friends and your family are way more important than the likelihood of your startup succeeding, which is virtually zero. Any questions about that before I jump to the next one? Okay, so the next, oh yes, go ahead.
The question is, at what point do you start pitching your product to potential investors for the seed round, but after the friends and family?
Yeah. The question is, when do you start pitching other investors? So this is actually the next slide, which is smart money. Basically, my suggestion is that you want to make as much progress as you possibly can. The more progress you can make before you start to have to pitch, the better off you're going to be. Because at the end of the day, you don't get a lot of shots to go pitch. Like, I will look at one pitch from you and no more, unless you're doing really well. So the more progress you can make, the better. But at some point, you need money to get somewhere, and then you got to hope you can get through it. So we'll talk about smart money. So basically, once you get through your friends and your family, my suggestion, and the most important thing for most investors, is to find people who know your space, who are absolute total experts in your space, people who are like the smartest people in the world. So like for me, like my narrowest vertical is like sort of ad tech shit. Like if you're in the ad tech market, like I'm probably going to say no 99% of the time, but I know that space really well. Go find people who know your space incredibly well. And what's great is actually there turns out that academics, like professors and stuff, they don't actually have a lot of money, but they actually provide a tremendous amount of social proof. And so you can go to the academics who are specialists in your space and say, hey, I got a great deal for you. I'll give you advisor shares in my company if you invest in my company as well. And you basically can come on board and help me with this process. And you suddenly create what is called social proof, in that like you can basically demonstrate you have smart people who believe you have a chance. Because most of those guys, they won't help you if they don't think you're going to succeed. But if they think you're going to succeed, they'll get on board. And those people can be very valuable. So always go get smart money as the second place that you focus. Before you go to professional VCs, before you go to professional investors, go find the smartest people in your space to raise money from. Friends and family, then smart money. Definitely the first two steps in the fundraising process. Okay. A lot of people basically think the idea is important. That's bullshit. The idea is not important, your idea is not important, your idea is not important, your idea is not important. Please remember, your idea is not important. But a validated idea is fucking amazing. And what that means is that if you have a new idea, which is I believe that we can make basically a car that get picked up by people using their phone. Like stupid idiots like me were like, nah, it won't work. Like, but then as soon as basically he did it and like I pushed the button on my phone and a car showed up, and I saw that, the validated idea, I was like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. Like, proving that it works is what you need to do to get investors to get really excited about what you do. Proving is everything. So whatever you do in your startup, in the beginning, prove it. Prove it, prove it. Just constantly figure out how to prove it. If you can prove it to me, like, I get really excited. Most people basically tell me why they're going to succeed. Prove to me why you're going to succeed. Show me data, show me numbers, and I get tremendously excited. Traction. Everything is about traction, 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 traction. At the end of the day, more customers, more revenue, more users. That curve is what almost every investor invests in. Go get it. If you don't have it, you're never going to get money from anybody. Go figure out how to get traction. Proving your idea and traction, the two most important things. Okay, guys. This is probably the biggest startup secret I've ever heard in my entire life. Michael Seibel, who runs Y Combinator, made this up. I think it's genius. The goal here when you have your company is to imagine that your customer, their hair is literally on fire. It's burning. Like literally, her hair's on fire. It's burning. And I can take a brick from this pile over here. I can run over to her. I can hand it to her and be like, give me 20 bucks. And she's happy to pay me for my brick. The terriblest, worst tool in the world for putting out burning hair. Like, it hurts, right? When you're hitting your head. But at the end of the day, when your hair is on fire, a shitty product can solve the problem, and you need it solved. If your customers don't have a hair on fire problem, if you can't hand them a shitty product and get them to pay you for it, go find someone who can. So this is the Michael Seibel's brick analogy. It's amazing. If you can go find a problem that's hard enough for these customers to solve on their own and they need you and you can hand them a shitty product, you're going to win. So just remember, if you're not selling a brick, you're probably going to be in trouble. So Reed was one of my investors, probably one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. He's a fucking genius. Most of the stuff I just said, I've learned from him. And let me tell you, if you can get smart money, go get it. Whatever you can do, I mean, like, I would give Reed equity in my company and wouldn't even ask for his money just to have him on board. Whenever you can get smart people to help you out, go do it. He's so fucking valuable. People like him are incredibly valuable. You can't go wrong having him. Oh, hold on, we went too fast. On the other hand, dumb money is the worst thing you possibly can have. Please, 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 please don't raise dumb money. Like, if you think your investor is dumb, don't raise their money. I guarantee you, in the 10 years it's going to take you to build your company, at some point, they're going to screw you. And your life is going to be miserable, and you're going to hate it. I've had both dumb money and smart money, and God, please don't raise dumb money. So just to close off, just do it. Just jump down that slide. Go for the run. Enjoy it. Have fun. This is the best job in the world. It's the hardest job in the world. It's amazing. Just go for it. The feelings that come when it works are the best feelings in the world. Like, I look back in those moments and I will never forget them. I will never regret them. And like, it made me the person that I am. So please keep up the work that you're doing. Please don't quit. Do it. Go for your dreams. I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, go for it. What you mean at my company? I worked at my company. I basically played poker on the side in the beginning to fund my ability to work at the company, and then slowly raised tiny bits of money and lived on nothing. And we got furniture off Craigslist for free, and then we'd sell some of it to basically make money to. I mean, we literally just scrapped our way through. Like everything. Like, look, being an entrepreneur is basically being scrappy and being scrappy and being scrappy. So yes, yes. So she asked about basically finding a technical partner. I think the secret to finding a technical partner is the secret to getting an entrepreneur investor is basically you have to find a secret that a technical person is really excited about. You've got to discover something that's proved, that's validated, and they're like going to get excited about. If you can find that, I think you'll get people on board.
That's all we have time for.
Okay.
If you have questions, please see them out in the hallway.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.